Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's community call. We're very, very excited to have you all here with us today. We have quite a few demos in store for you, so we will get started shortly. But if it is your first community call, we want to get quickly into the ops details. So if you want to chat, ask any questions, or just talk to our team here, just use the comments in YouTube. I believe Twitter has it as well, but we won't actually see those directly. And then the Discord general channel. So if you aren't already in our Discord, it's a great place to be, not only for the community calls, because people had a lot of memes in there, but if you want to start using Dagger, it's a great place to ask questions and engage with the rest of the folks in there. And if you're watching these and you want to submit a topic, please feel free to DM me on Discord, and I'll be happy to add you to the agenda. And let's talk about quickly events. I keep forgetting this slide, but we're going to be in a lot of places in the next few weeks. So we're going to be at Cloud Rejects, which is right before KubeCon in Salt Lake City. And we'll also be at App Developer Con, KubeCon North America, and AWS reInvent. So we're going to be all over the place. If you're going to be at any of these, Discord, again, is the best way to just let us know in the general channel, and we'll be happy to set up some time to talk to you. And if you want some socks, please stop by our booth too. And then jumping into the agenda. So we have quite a few people with us today. We have Peter, who's going to talk a little bit more about deploying fly.io using Dagger and GitHub. And then we have Diego, one of our regular demoers here, who's going to be talking about scaling Gen AI interfaces with GPU. And then we have Matthias, who's going to be talking about Pocket CI. And we also have Solomon here, who hopefully we have some time for a little extra demo at the end too.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Hey, everyone. Welcome.
And maybe we can
we got some repeat demoers, right? That Peter, right?
We
Both
do.
Peter and Diego, it's not your first time on the community call.
No. I've been here before.
Yes, and they actually are some of our commanders. So if people haven't seen yet, we released our 2024 commanders list. So very excited to have Peter and Diego as part of that. Maybe we could start with you, Peter, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Peter Yashowitz. I'm a technical evangelist at Solo.io, which means I work with hands-on with a lot of different tech, but mainly focused on APIs, API gateways, and service meshes. And yeah, during my spare and or free time, whenever that's available and possible, I look into different technologies, try different tools out, and that's how I found Dagger, right? And that's what I'll talk about today in my demo very quickly, how I created a Dagger function basically to deploy to Fly.io.
I remember when we run into your live stream. You live streamed yourself just trying Dagger for the first time. Right?
Yes. Yeah. That was the easiest way for me to learn technology, to just go turn on the camera and microphone and just go through stuff. And
that was fun to watch. We have the whole Dagger team. We have a whole thread. We were talking about the problems you ran into, and we were like, "Oh no, we got to fix this." It was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's thinking out loud. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, it's always great to see that type of stuff because we're so into it every single day. And so we actually have a few users in our intro channel. If you're watching and you're just joining for the first time, it's amazing to see the feedback when you see it from fresh eyes. So always let us know. There's no feedback too small or too big.
It's kind of like an addiction at this point. Like we're addicted to direct feedback, so we can fix it as quickly as possible.
That's for sure. Yeah, and Diego, I know you're kind of a regular on the show now, but you want to let people know who you are and how you're using Dagger?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a physicist, although I'm not doing too much physics lately. I'm a technologist, if you wish. So I'm investigating different solutions for convincing data analysts that are scientists in this case to adopt cloud native and also innovative solutions to do their work. So, and doing this, physicist loves DAG or any kind of pipeline. So I look at Dagger and I'm quite addicted right now. So if you wish, but yeah, I think it has a great potential for our use cases. So yeah.
That's awesome. I know you're one of the many use cases I show when people always ask, like, hey, like, can I use it for more than CI? I'm like, just go see Diego's stuff.
For
There's
sure.
endless examples of how you use it. So thank you for always showing us different ways.
Dags everywhere.
Yeah.
And Kyle and Matthias, what about you? Who are you?
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm Kyle. I'm on the ecosystem team at Dagger. So Dagger is life. I'm in Indiana, and that's all I got for today.
I will say, because everyone on the Dagger team is too modest, but Kyle used to run very large CI/CD pipelines at HashiCorp. So all the cool software that HashiCorp ships, there's also a factory behind that, just assembling it and making sure it works, testing it, et cetera. And so Kyle had to deal with some pretty gnarly pipelines. A very big and complicated DAG, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And we get to see all kinds of crazy DAGs now at Dagger.
Like the DAG doctors.
Exactly.
I know there's quite a few of you that I've also introduced Kyle to you, as that he's kind of the Daggerize king of send them pipeline and he'll figure out how to make it work with Dagger. So if you have any of those, send us our way. And Matthias, you?
Yeah, I'm Matias. I'm an engineer from Argentina. At Dagger, I do all things infra and pretty much any other problem that we may need to solve. And yeah, today we're going to talk about YAML. So stay tuned.
Are you giving a demo, Matthias?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What are you, Kyle? Are you giving a demo also?
I mean, not planning on it. We'll see.
We're
He's our helpful studio audience, so
nice. Yeah, we're gonna sit back and
no, just kidding.
I'm just here
the
for
show.
the applause. Yeah.
air horns.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think maybe we Solon, if you want, we can maybe get started, but
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
let's jump in, Peter. I know you kind of had a short one, so let's do that one. Let's add it to the stage, and I'll try to make this as big as I can while you're getting started.
All
Peter,
right.
do you prefer if we ask questions as you go, or that we shut up and ask at the end?
Feel free. I mean, it's gonna go faster if you don't ask questions as I go, but I'm fine either way. I don't.
Okay,
I really don't mind.
That's totally fine.
Yeah. So all right. So what happened a couple of months back? I was, I think I was looking into HTMX and learning about that a little bit, and then let me try to deploy something, and let me use Bun and all these new different texts that I haven't worked with before. So I came around with Fly.io, and I wanted to try that. Fly.io is just like a cloud where you can go and deploy your applications, right? So back then, they did not have the functionality where you could hook up your GitHub repo to their platform, meaning whenever you push code, you get automatic deploys to their cloud, right? So that meant I had to go and get their CLI. So I set that up, and then of course you have to go and create the GitHub action, right, to set up the workflow, right, to deploy. And as I was going through this, and I'm like, oh, this might be interesting to do in Dagger, right? To just go and create a Dagger function. So that's what I did. The Dagger function is very, very simple. It only implements the single command. Well, there's a single function called deploy, right? That what it does, it takes the source directory, it takes the token, which is a secret, and then creates the fly container down here that installs the CLI, passes the token in as well, mounts the directory, sets the working directory, and then just executes the fly CLI with the deploy command, and allowing you to deploy your application using Dagger. So it's a very, very simple, very straightforward function. This is all there is to it. So the simple demo is I have a Hello World application running. I can use Fly deploy to deploy it. It's going to deploy the same thing. So while that's going on, what I'll do is let me actually open another terminal. Let's see how fast that is. Anyway, so what I'll do is, it's there, it's running, right? So it's deployed already. And if I want to deploy this with a Dagger function, so we'll say hello world Dagger, right? What I'll do is I'll export the token. and then I can run Dagger, call the function directly, right, from my GitHub repo, pass in the current working current folder as a source, and then use the secret to reference this environment. Well, use the token flag, right, to reference the environment variable that then gets passed in here as a secret type, right, and it gets passed in, sets as a fly API token for the CLI that runs, right. So let's do that one. So it's basically doing the same thing. It's just wrapped into the Dagger module, Dagger function. And if I refresh this, should be there soon. There you go, right? So that worked. And then the last step was, of course, creating the GitHub workflow. So I use the Dagger for GitHub action, and then the only thing that you're doing is just specifying the module, and then the actual command where the secret is set in your GitHub secrets. So very simple. Yeah, I can take any questions now if there are any.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
What's the perfect combo? Like, what would you combine? What other modules might you combine this with?
So I was thinking, like, it's right now with this one single, like only having a single function, it's I mean, it's useful, and it's kind of you're basically wrapping a CLI, right, into another abstraction, right, which is the Dagger module and all that. But honestly, I would rather have this in the GitHub workflows and I know I own this than have the CLI and then have the CLI break me like that. You know what I mean? But combining this, like, you could do the basically the next thing that one would want to do is probably look at the Fly CLI and just see all the other stuff that you can have there, because they have some database stuff, right? They have some console clusters that you can set up, right? And different other things that you could do. But you could combine it with, let me think about it. It's mostly you're deploying a front end, you're deploying a website. Let's say you have to do things like optimize images, right? So there could be a function or a module, right, that does image optimization or something, right? Things like that.
It kind of makes me want to, now that we have these contextual modules where you can sort of, attach a module to your upstream application, it makes me want to try and add a deploy function to my app that just sort of magically uses Fly, and I don't even have to know how it deploys. It just deploys.
Yeah.
And probably the only place where the implementation details would leak is the need to pass that Fly IO token.
Yes. Yeah. But you could think about having I tried to do one-to-one mapping here, right? Like to the CLI, but it doesn't have to be that, right? Like my deploy here could be a bunch of other things as well, not just the website, right?
Where can I ask you a question about your setup? Like, if you were to deploy an app with this on Fly using this module, and this question will make Kyle happy. We've been talking about secrets and secrets management a lot, because you just showed the current state of the art. You can have a function that takes a secret as argument, and then you pass the secret explicitly. So you have an abstraction. A Dagger gives you an abstraction for what the secret is, but it doesn't abstract away having to map each secret to each argument, and that can get a little tedious. So we get a very common request we get is, could you just sort of make that simpler, abstract it away somehow, have swappable secrets backends, So we've been talking about that. So I'm curious, in a realistic scenario for you, where would that Fly IO token come from? Would it be an environment variable on your machine, or in your password manager, or in some other?
So one thing, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know if that exists or not in Dagger. If you're doing like web development front end, what you typically have is you have a .env file locally on my machine, right? So what would be nice if there is a way to do something like let's say copy this one, right? and you would have env file or whatever it is, right? Something like this, and then
Yeah.
this would then map the whole env file into the function, right? And env file is the key value pairs, right? Is secret.
And with that env file, how would you get that env file in there? Because presumably you don't want to check it into Git as is with all the secrets. Would you? So, but you would just take care of getting it there one way or the other.
So you would typically, so what I use for like web development and stuff is I typically use Vercel, right, as my like platform, right? And the way that they have it is you just go there, you copy paste the contents of your env file, and then they store the secrets for you, right? They also have a CLI where you can push the secrets directly from your local machine, right? Push it to the prod. But I mean, honestly, there is probably a way to set this up in like a 1Password or some proper secret store, but I'm always like, I don't want to go that route. I don't even want to look at it because it's probably too complex. You know,
there's many ways to do it for sure. But it's so interesting. It's very fragmented. So I'm interested in how you actually do it, which is perfect. The answer is my question. It's very useful.
Yeah.
Comments from the community too about maybe a secrets provider with implementations such as Vault. And Sebastian mentioning he's actually built a solution to the .nav or environment problem using human / workload identity.
Yeah.
Sebastian, we can see that at KubeCon if you're going there.
Now you got to ship it, Sebastian. Spotlight's on you.
Yeah, there's also solutions like I don't know what it's called, but what Sebastian said that reminded me of people not necessarily even using env files, but they have I think it's called env dir or dir env or something. Basically, you enter into a folder and then it automatically sets any environment variables you want in that folder, right?
Yeah.
For you. So yeah, a lot of different ways to do the same thing in the end.
Yeah, a lot of what we do is, we try to. Our job is to add abstractions that are actually useful, and it's really hard. It's really easy to make an abstraction that makes your life worse.
Yeah.
And so we're being very slow and deliberate, and then we just kind of listen as much as possible to real world scenarios so we understand the patterns, and then let's just add a little abstraction here when we're confident it's not actually going to get in the way, and so but for sure there's one of those abstractions coming for secrets management, for environments, because it's just very repetitive right now.
I mean, at least from the web front end space, right? The env files are the things, right, where people store the secrets. But the fact that there is a support for a file, you could technically just store it in a JSON and then parse it inside the module. But I don't know if people really want to do that, right? They could, maybe they are, but not everyone wants to parse JSON necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Not that it's hard.
I'll write a .env module today, and that'll be the
boom. There you go.
Replacement until we have providers.
After every conversation, Cal just ships a module.
That's right.
No meeting notes, just a module.
That's not specific to Dagger either. That's my real life. They all lead to modules.
Yeah, Kyle, you have to pair with Sebastian. Make sure you aren't duplicating.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Well, there's great conversation happening in the chat too. So thanks for all of your feedback on the secrets. If we, just to make sure we're going to the next demo with enough time, if you have any feedback on this or any other thoughts on how we work with the secret providers, please, again, shameless plug to our Discord. It's always a great place. Just throw your thoughts.
Sure.
GitHub issues too. But if there's a specific issue, Kyle, maybe you already have one in mind, throw it in the general channel so people can add their thoughts and comments there.
Yeah, if you're in the comments right now and you don't want it to end, you want to continue the conversation, the answer is join the Discord if you haven't already, because it's like that all the time.
24/7.
24/7.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it. Let's get Diego on the stage. Let's see. If I can figure out how to remove it. Oh, Diego, can you add your screen? I just realized.
Yeah, let me try.
And then also, I see everyone's comments about it being a little blurry. So Sophia on our team's looking into it. We're trying to see if we can fix it. But I made the screen as big as I can. So perfect. Add the stage. There we go, Diego. And
Okay, so yeah, I see you can see my
Cool.
screen. And let me just, today I want to try something. So since it will take a bit to complete one of the steps that I want to share, for some part I recorded and we can skip the slow bootstrap of the VMs and so on. But for this one, I like to tease with some command that we will come to it later. So just take it like, okay, here I'm applying an Helm chart of some software. Just believe me and see how it proceeds. And this software is going to create, I'm in a Kubernetes cluster, and I have a node, a mysterious node that is not ready. Okay. And then I'm going to launch this simple Dagger command that is using the module that we are going to see in detail in a minute. So bear with me a second. Let me just type create start. Okay, and we'll leave this working while we are speaking. So coming back to presentation that I prepared just to introduce the topics. Well, the application, the module that I'm going to show is basically for two main case studies in mind. I hope you can see it. Otherwise, I can zoom in, I suppose. Well, the first one is okay. I have a machine learning pipeline of some sort on my continuous integration, and I want to delegate part of this job to an external machine that maybe has multiple GPUs or whatever. And on a slightly different pattern, there is a more standalone application of this module that is, okay, I can compose this module with something else, creating a multi-step setup for my infrastructure. So for instance, we are going to see in practice, I have a framework for developing AI application that works like an hub plus runners. I can decide, okay, I want an easy command, just one command, to bring up on demand a runner, so a virtual machine with a GPU that attached to my framework in a seamless way. So I have one command I run, and it is attached to my framework, so I can use this to make inference for any kind of AI stuff. And the other part is I want to do the same, but right now I'm not on top of a framework already established. I have a Kubernetes cluster. So I want an on-demand Kubernetes GPU node to be attached. So this is a technology that we use a lot for different topics in my institution and in our project where we participate, and we are evaluating this. So I work for INFN, as I mentioned. Maybe I didn't mention before, but I'm mentioning that right now. And this is the tool. We are not going into any details for time reasons, but yeah, we will see that the node that was stuck before, immediately after my module works and finish its work, will appear to be ready, and you can submit this stuff to an external VM. So two main topics: CI/CD for machine learning AI, where I want to spawn and delegate some task to an external VM, or complex setup for either attaching GPUs to a Gen AI framework or to attaching a GPU to a Kubernetes cluster. So, okay, what these two use cases have in common? Well, both of them can be summarized. Allow me to summarize them as here. So start doing some stuff. this is the pipeline from the top to the bottom. So do some stuff, use my GPU wherever it is, and then get results and do some other local stuff. This looks like quite a good fit for a module, a generic module that I built on top of a particular provider, but it can be abstracted if you wish. So, and in this step in the middle, you probably want to create a VM, set up some dependencies, or import some data, and then execute a task. And yeah, here is end the task, not execute. Sorry for a typo. So 4 steps in my module that can be reused anytime you want into your pipeline. To be more specific, what we are going to do is, okay, I take a marketplace, and in this case, for my convenience for the API that they expose, I use Shadeform AI, a marketplace where you can see different providers with different price for VM on GPUs, and decide to spawn on one or the other. And then you have the other component that is, okay, I want something that is modular, programmable for pipelines and CI. So without any surprise, you can imagine that we are going to use Dagger modules. And eventually, how I imagine a typical workflow and why I decided for this kind of execution machinery. So the idea is, okay, once I have a module that is capable of creating VM, doing any kind of stuff, and delete the VM, I can create any sort of DAG where different steps can be executed locally and bring data into my remote VM, and then get the result back. All of this in a programmatical way, combining different modules. And yeah, so just one thing, this execute task can be a simple bash script to execute any kind of operation in Python, or you can execute container like we are going to do for the Gen AI part. And also you can use any kind of installation script to bring up custom components. And this is what we are going to do with Interlink use case. So we are going to download binaries, configure them, and make them run as daemons. Okay, if there are no questions so far, I'll proceed.
I have a quick question on, in terms of when you're thinking about building this module for people who maybe new to Dagger, how long did it take you to think about, hey, this could be a perfect module to set up all these use cases, to set up this full use case?
So you mean how it looks, this module, or where to start for?
So I think if you go back to the last slide where you're talking about, or actually the slide's perfect, that's what your module is going to do. I was just trying to think of if a new user was thinking about, hey, I wonder what module to build. This one's doing a lot of things. I was just wondering, if it took you some planning time, or how you approached figuring out if this would be the best module to build for this use case.
Yeah, one thing that I consider for the module is how generic it can be. And it was actually a question that I had also before related to the FlyIO module. So the idea is that you can abstract this kind of procedure whatever provider you use. So I'm using Shadeform here, but I can use any other kind of provider with the same logic. So I can reuse this very same schema in different places. Also, yeah, and also the other part is, okay, I want the module to be as single target as possible. So as the simplest it is, the more you can reuse in general. So this is at least my experience. So you will see that in this module, I will use another small module for templating that is really simple, but you can reuse in different situations. So yeah, it's kind of splitting a monolithic DAG in different micro DAG.
Okay. Awesome. So, like, if your advice probably to people who are watching or haven't got started is really think about the building blocks and the reusability, and then from there, then build that first module that you think might be have the most reuse capabilities.
Yeah, definitely. I think the reusability should be it's central to me, and also, yeah, I have other consideration that we'll see looking at this module. So yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know if others have any other comment on this, but
I have a question. I'll keep it for later. I'm curious to see the code first.
all right. So yeah, you can find, first of all, you can find the module in Daggerverse if you look for shadform, and you have some more complex end-to-end example on how to use this combined with a real-world installation. That is the one that I launched at the beginning of the demo. And then you have a more simple command like you want to remove the VM or do some other fancy stuff. It's written in Python, so you will see the example in Pythons, and it's pretty simple, so we can go through directly. You see it correctly? Okay. Yeah, it's readable. Yeah. Okay. So how a module looks like. It's start everything from a class where you can set up some environment. Then we will see later this in practice. What you need usually is defining your deployment with a name and a shade token for the authentication. All the rest are utilities. In particular, the cache one is responsible to store the information of the virtual machine you created to avoid, for instance, that you create a VM twice and then you forget to remove. That's kind of, that would be painful to forget some VM with 8 H100 running in the background. And so the first command is, of course, creating my VM. And I can pass loads of variables. Here you can see the name shade token again, the ID of the VM if I wish, and different kind of information. But again, this is the instantiation of my module. Okay, so you can consider this the init function of your module. So here you can define different kind of logic for initiating different kind of global, if you wish, namespaces. So I decided to use this init function to create a cache module for each deployment name. So I'm sure that whenever I call different function with this name, I'm referring every time to the same VM. I cannot make mistakes. Then I create some other utilities modules. This is the client one, so the one responsible to mount the cache and do different commands. So, and also another utility is checking if the VM already exists. This last utility is used directly into the first real function, the one that you can actually use, that is create the VM. So when I create the VM, I ask you for different parameters, which cloud you want to spawn it, region, instance type, shade cloud, etc. And this is parsed directly into this dictionary. And then there is the utility script that I defined before that check for, it's quick and dirty. Don't be crazy on the Python style or Pythonistic function and use, but yeah, it works, and for demonstrating it's quite complete. So I'm checking here that the ID of the VM doesn't exist, and if so, I can create it without any issue. So going ahead, I take my client and I use a Dagger template module. So this Dagger template is another module that if you go here, Dagger template. I don't remember how it's called. Here. So it's a simple module that takes a JSON string with all your parameters and a template file, a Jinja2 template file, and they compile it and mount a file into your chain. So I'm using this because I'm creating a template file for the deployment in shadeform. And with this information that you pass, this template will be built and put into data.json. This information then are used to create your VM with a curl using all the APIs. So you see, it's pretty rough if you want, but you can do these kind of things. You can chain any kind of exec and files in your containers and do all the most fancy thing that you can imagine. And in this case, I do the curl, I say the output, I parse the output to store any kind of information I need. And eventually I go back and return a container. I go quick to all the other function. This was the most interesting one. There are others that are okay. Once you create a machine, now you have in your cache all the information. Give me the VM ID, give me the information of the VM, and get the available VMs and the available providers for this kind of GPU. You can list and take the cheapest one, and also get the VM status. That is quite important, of course, because you want to wait for the VM to be ready to do any kind of other operation. Get VM users. Okay, these are information that are useful because you want to also operate on this VM from remote. So you want to SSH and do commands or load files. VM ready to check and to pull a shadeform to understand when the machine is ready, and create and check, combine the create VM and the VM ready function inside. I want also to delete my VM. I want to execute command on SSH, gathering all the information I need from other functions. So you can see that in this class, I have different functions that are utility functions, like these ones, and some other function that I call more core function because are the one that you want to actually expose and use in a daily life if you want. So you want also to copy file, you want to copy directory, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of other stuff that you might want to do and you can add to this module. But yeah, this is the core implementation that I have at the moment, and we are going to look how it works. So for the basic functionalities, I have a video, as I mentioned before. So if there are comments or questions, I think we can take some, and then I show you how it works in practice. Yeah.
The main question I have is there an opportunity later? This is like a Dagger wrap, like you're wrapping a pretty complex but powerful system in a Dagger API, right? And it abstracts away creating and running VMs, and then inside of those VMs running specialized tools. Is there an opportunity later to make this a Dagger sandwich where it's Dagger on the outside and then some VM and tooling? It looks like the work that the tooling itself does inside the VM possibly could be Daggerized also. Is that something you're thinking about? Like Dagger to VM to more Dagger?
Yeah, possibly. Yes, it's an option. Unfortunately, I think that in that case, you will lose the possibility to access directly to the GPUs. So that's it's what is blocking from make a Dagger inception.
I see. Sure. We should try. It would be interesting to see if we can use the. There's a GPU enabled build of the Dagger engine. I don't think it's in the default yet, but there's an experimental API where you can say container dot with GPU, and then you can get a container with a GPU, mounted inside. But I think there's some asterisk. I think it's NVIDIA only, and I think that's actually the main asterisk. Like, it doesn't work on my Mac, sadly. And it doesn't work on other hardware than NVIDIA. But I think it might. I'd be curious to see if it helps in your scenario on NVIDIA hardware. Yeah, I feel like we should advertise that feature more. I don't think people know you can run Dagger with GPU access if the stars align. Like, were you aware of that feature, Diego, or are you just learning it now? I'm curious because we don't really talk about it.
Now that you said, I remember that I asked for that and you answered exactly like this, but I never tried because
yeah, I mean, it's somewhere, it's kind of in a corner. We don't exactly put it in your face like, hey, try the GPU feature, but yes, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, also because
now Kyle's
the
make a modular.
The script that I started before the demo is essentially quite a long script. You can see quite long. It's a series of steps that can be very well Daggerized, I think. So it could be cool. Yeah.
Oh, also had a much smaller question, but I noticed in one of the functions, you do a lot of work, and then at the end you return an empty container. And I don't know if anyone else caught
this
that.
is because I'm a physicist. I love to do. No.
Did anyone else see that, or did I? Maybe I listened. Yeah, that one.
Because, I'm returning this if everything went well, and then I can return anything if not. So
I see.
Yeah, I'm checking if this fails. It means that the VM it doesn't exist, so you can go ahead and creating one.
I see. It's like a Python thing. You the function has it returns a container type, so you have to return something at the end that's a container.
Yeah, I don't know if there is an option to do something like container or known.
I guess you could just raise an exception. If you get there, it's probably an error, right? You probably just want to raise an error. But okay, I see. It's like
error. I don't
basically it's not. You're not supposed to get to that point. Basically, okay, I understand now. Sorry, I had to know. I was curious.
Sure.
And there's a comment about the GPU enabled that Patrick was mentioning. It seems interesting since the ML models are faster. But if while moving on to this, if someone's watching and they want to like try it out or learn more about it, where would be the best place to do that? Or Kyle, maybe you both know.
To learn about what? About the GPU?
Feature? The feature.
That's a good question. I don't even know if it's in the docs. Like, it's maybe in the cookbook.
Cookbook? Okay.
I think in doubt, Discord. Discord and like the hive mind. Ask the hive mind. I want to do GPU. How do I do GPU?
Okay, perfect.
But, the short version is you need to install an alternative version of the engine. I realize now saying it, we should really make this easier. It's not really it's like an advanced thing. We should just we've had some challenges in combining those two builds because the basic, like the standard Dagger engine is built in a container that's on an Alpine base, nice and simple, nice and small, but it doesn't have NVIDIA compatibility. It doesn't have the NVIDIA libraries.
Got it.
And the Ubuntu does, but Ubuntu is bigger, and we've been hesitating to just swap in Ubuntu, making everyone's downloads bigger, basically. So that's why it's an alternative build. But yeah, join Discord. Say the magic word GPU 3 times. GPU. And then we'll set it up together.
Awesome. Okay, sounds good. We'll make a community call to-do list. We have some modules to make. We have some documentation to write.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Diego, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No problem. So I think it's time to see it in practice, it can be clearer, I think. So let me start the video. As I mentioned before, I accelerated it because it could take some time. So, okay, I am logging into Shadeform. I'm deciding whether I want to set up things in different providers. Hyperstack is the one that is by default in the module. So I can call my module directly like, okay, name and sheet token, that are the parameters that I put that are fundamental for instantiating everything. And then I use the default value of create and check function. So by default, we'll go on with a GPU A7000 and A6000 and on Hyperstack, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it will do some VM by default. Ideally, I have in the plans to make by default launching the cheapest VM on the marketplace. So that could be a nice feature to add. And you can see that, okay, everything is working, starting to create the VM with all the with the requested instance type. Once done, it's polling. You see different tries. It's polling for the status. Whenever it is done, of course, is not the fast I accelerated. It can take 5 to 10 minutes. You have the active status on your right-hand side, and eventually the module discovered that the ID for this deployment is this one, and they show you the ID. I can retrieve different kind of information now from the cache, so I can tell get VM ID, and the module will retrieve the ID of the VM. And then I can ask also different kind of things. You can see here all the function. And for instance, I can run an SSH command. Exactly. Passing my SSH key and asking for, okay, execute on the remote VM NVIDIA SMI, so I can list the GPUs available on this host. And okay, everything goes ahead, retrieve all the information on the user and SSH endpoint, and eventually it prints out the results of your command. So you have everything in hand to interact with this kind of VMs, and also to remove it. So you can go ahead, do the delete VM, and the VM will be eventually removed from the right-hand side. So I don't recall why this error, but okay, the results is good. You have no more instance available. And a tiny, more complex example is the one that I mentioned before. So I don't know how many of you know Alex, but this is an example of application where you have, okay, let me go back to the presentation, sorry, where you deploy on your Kubernetes cluster an app that exposes an endpoint, and then you can spawn everywhere, basically, Docker containers or containers in general that connect back to this hub through a WebSocket with a particular token. And in this way, you can have on-demand GenAI inference VMs and use them as they come. So in the very same way, I can combine. Okay, you see here I have my ChatGPT like menu where I store all my session or my questions, and this one is the dashboard. Here on the right-hand side, you see an empty space that is the one related to listing all the connected runners. So we start with 0 runner on this instance, and then I collected different codes, combined codes of this module into NSH. The create one, so the create command here will basically do, you see in a second, will execute the create and check VM on the very same infrastructure as you see here where I have my cursor. So again, this is pretty simple create VM that we saw before, and you see again here is creating my VM. After some time, this will succeed, and now you have a second step that is available, that is this one. So let me stop here. The start command will execute an SSH command with all the needed information to connect back to the hub. The token is changed, so I can show it to you. And all right, so let's start our runner that will download the image on the remote host. So you can see here we are not really using the Dagger to run on an automatic CI, but more like wrapping command for setting up stuff. And of course, for GenAI platform can be not so useful, or maybe you can find some use case for this, but especially useful for the thing that we launched before. So you can imagine that you want to add a Kubernetes node just in particular situation, you can automatize the creation of a VM and attach back to your cluster. Okay, so everything runs, and voila. On the right-hand side, you see the runner running on Shadeform that is attached to my GenAI platform. Now I can go ahead and say, okay, hi. And after some time, the bootstrap for the first question is not lightning fast, but it gets faster the second time you ask. So you see here the inference is taking place. We are warming up. And as soon as completed, right now, you will see the answer appearing in your platform. So you're using on-demand VM to do GenAI inference in this case. You delete the VM, you pay only for the small amount of time that we use this example, and you're good. That's one of the applications that you can use. And on the very similar behavior, let's see if what we launched before succeeded. So we can go back here, and you can see that eventually, as soon as my instantiation of the service is completed on the remote side, I have my remote node that now is ready. So if we do describe node, and this is the thanks to the magic, if you want, of the interlink software that I showed you before. But you see, let me increase the size. Okay, and you can see that we have a GPU available and some kind of CPU and memory at our disposal to schedule pod on this kind of node. So yeah, you can do all this kind of stuff. One thing that I want to mention, just concluding, is that now I'm installed components, but this can be also one-shot execution of any PyTorch training code that you want to run once and shut down your machine. So this kind of approach, you can reuse this module in a pipeline that import your data on your machine, do the execution, store your data somewhere else, close the machine, and go ahead with your pipeline. This is something I want to also investigate, and I did some tests with some preliminary tests with simple commands. Kind of, if you wish, a Dagger flow would be kind of cool. So yeah, time for questions, I think, or not.
This is really cool to see how all of it works with all the various modules. I threw in some of the links of the modules you used in the chat, in the YouTube chat, and then also in our Discord general channel. But not sure if I think I put in 2, so I think I didn't miss any. But Solomon, did you have any questions? Otherwise, then we can, for the sake of time.
No questions. We have homework on the GPU front.
Definitely.
And like a possible future expansion of this with a Dagger sandwich.
For
Like
sure.
Dagger outside the VM and also inside the VM. And I'm just curious to see if with GPU support, we can add, grow the DAG. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super cool. It's like you said, it's super cool to see like a variety of use cases. You know, these ML pipelines they're complicated. So like looks like we're on track to help simplify them, which of course I like.
Yeah, it's been really cool to
Thanks
see
for
the community in Discord. We had a few other users in Discord share some blog posts, actually, if you in our link section, and they're doing some other things with MLOps use cases too. So in upcoming ones, I think we're going to do kind of a tag team with Diego and that team for kit ops.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see. So if you're watching and you have some, thoughts on the GPU side, or you're wanting to get access to that feature, I started a thread in our Discord general channel. So please jump in there and add all of your thoughts. It's great for us to hear that feedback.
What's super interesting, I know I'll just plant this for later discussion, but in the ML and AI applications of Dagger, what's super intriguing to me is you have two related use cases. There's pipelines to test and just ship your AI app, which is kind of like test your AI app or model or lab. And then there's the app itself. Like if it's an agent style app, it kind of itself is a DAG with, some nodes maybe are, loops like for the refining, like, oh, you screwed up, try again, etc. But there's a lot of pipelines in the app. Like AI apps kind of look like pipelines. And so the lines are kind of blurry between Dagger running the DAG that tests the app and Dagger running the DAG that is the app. It kind of seems like the lines are blurrier in the AI and ML space than they are in web apps, for example, where it's very clear, like a web app is not a pipeline. It's not a DAG. So there's no equivalent there, really. Anyway, I guess the closest one would be microservices. When you run integration tests for an app, you are kind of running an ephemeral version of the app with all its components, etc. So, okay, I guess maybe there is a parallel, but it's stronger in AI. And that makes me very curious.
Yeah. I think the coolest part about the AI use cases too is that a lot of times in the normal enterprises, you have the platform engineers running, specific pipelines, and there's very specific people to do things. But Diego's also a great example of it's someone, who's not specifically normally running all these pipelines, and Dagger's making it a lot easier to not only understand, but also to get things started. And it's not like, Dio, you're doing amazing work, but it's not like this is like Kyle, where he was sitting there, at HashiCorp doing this day in, day out. So it's cool to see. Sweet. We have yeah, exactly. All together. So technically we're at time, but we actually have like 2 more demos.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna throw it to Matthias and you right now and make a live decision. We could probably go for another like 15 minutes or so. Matthias, I know you have Pocket CI, but Solomon,
I want to see Matthias's demo. Yeah. I don't actually have a planned demo. It's just that Nipuna on Discord asked if we could all show. We've been teasing this experimental feature that's in development that is really nice, and I would love to show, but there will be other occasions. So we should definitely. I want to see Matthias's demo.
Sounds good.
And we'll do like maybe a special episode or something to show the other one.
Oh, perfect. And there's
I'll have to come to the next community call.
Yeah, our next community call actually is in Halloween, so I'm expecting everyone who's presenting that day in just crazy costumes.
So American.
Oh gosh. Okay. So let's pull you up, and then if any of the speakers have to go, no worries. But we'd love to have other people stay if you can. Well, go for it.
We're looking at it. We're looking at like a YouTube video. That's normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's normal. That's expected. You're looking at a really good talk that that Gerhard gave. He tried to give it at KubeCon, but it didn't happen, so he recorded it, and I think it's a good thing he did. In this talk, he very eloquently describes what the square hole is in the context of tech. I'm not sure if you've seen this video from this comedian where she basically sees someone trying to fit a given figure into the proper hole, but the guy keeps using the square hole, and as continues to happen, the girl gets more and more frustrated. What Gerhard was explaining in this talk is that the favorite tool is, in fact, the square hole. You will try to see how you can fit that favorite tool into pretty much anywhere that you can. And it might feel good, it might feel bad, you will still go for it. So today, we're going to talk about YAML. Now, YAML is not my favorite tool. I'm not sure if it's anybody's favorite tool. It's a tool that, to get started, feels relatively good. You know, you're typing some stuff, you type some config, you do this, you do that, and all of a sudden you have something that roughly works. But as time goes on, it gets more and more complicated, and at a certain point, it just gets untenable. I don't know if some of you have worked with Helm and Helm templates, but I don't wish that to anybody. So today we're going to see if Dagger can help us remove every single YAML. Now, if you have seen a GitHub workflow, you know that there's like a certain anatomy to it. You have a section where you define how you want your workflow to be triggered. You have a bunch of sections that are just GitHub specific, and then you have the actual jobs. Now, if you're Daggerizing your projects, you probably already have a very slim YAML. You basically have a one Dagger call or a few Dagger calls. The important logic is taken care of by Dagger, but you still have to write every single config for the GitHub workflow, and those can still become a little bit complicated and cumbersome to develop on. As an experiment, an idea that we're testing, Solomon wrote a module called GHA, where instead of writing the actual config yourself, what if you have a DSL that you can use, a Dagger DSL, a Dagger module, and that module generates the configs for you, meaning all you have to do is just define your pipelines with functions, where you can say with pipeline, say hello, specify the function that I want to use, the module that I want to use, and then just generate it. You commit that to your repo, and you have a GitHub workflow with technically no YAML inside. Now, you have to close your eyes because there actually is YAML. This generates a GitHub workflows directory that you have to commit, and you won't be working on it, but it's still there. And it might be bugging your mind the fact that your repository still has like that 1% YAML thing that GitHub shows you. So can we get rid of it? That's where Pocket CI comes in. Inspired by Solomon's GHH module, we basically work on defining your pipelines with the same kind of DSL, where you just say, I want to run a pipeline called checks. This pipeline will run whenever these files change. It will run when there's a pull request and the actions are this one, or a push to these branches. It's going to run the module CI, and it's going to run test and lint in parallel. I could also just run test or run whatever I may want. Then I have a publish module that only runs on push to main, and it will run only after the checks pipeline has completed. I use the GH8 module to grab all these pipelines and then just return that. It basically returns a file, but you don't have to commit that file. You don't even have to know what that file is. You just have to put it there so that Pocket CI can take care of interpreting it. And that's all you write. You don't write any YAML. You just write this, and Pocket CI will take care of all the parsing, all the dispatching, and all that stuff. I think Pocket CI is becoming less Pocket as time goes on, but we'll see. So that's time for the demo, because if not, everything that I said...
you just need a bigger pocket.
Sorry, what?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute.
Did I lose you?
I said you just need a bigger pocket. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so here where network is unreachable. Okay, so demos are not working. Can you hear me? Because I think internet is actually going away.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yep.
Now it's working. Now it's starting. So in this terminal, we're running the control plane of Pocket CI. This control plane is connected to GitHub, and it will be receiving events from the GitHub webhooks integration. And on this pane, we're going to run the agent. The agent is going to be hitting the control plane, asking for new jobs that it needs to run. Then right here, I have a few changes that I can commit. And let's say test. We can push it. And then we're going to see that the control plane would actually receive the event from GitHub. It will start parsing it. It will call our Pocket CI function. And from there, it will actually generate the configs to generate, which means which Dagger calls do I actually need to run. it will save all of those, all the call graph, the dependencies between like if I need to run test first, then lint, then publish, whatever that may be. It will keep that all in state, and then the agent will eventually pick that up once the actual like pipeline is processed. So we can see here that we have GHA with pipeline, we have the checks, we have open and synchronize, we have the push on main. This is basically running everything. There's a way to make this faster. Haven't gotten to that part yet. But this is basically, trying to interpret what exactly the user wants to run. And once it knows, it will actually enqueue those jobs. And you can see here that the repository is being cloned, and the engine already picked up the test and the corresponding lint that we need to run. So this will like download the binary. It will do a bunch of stuff. It will clone it. Apparently, the internet is not working great, so I hope the stream is working because the cloning is taking a really long time. While that happens, let's see if Cloud is actually working. And I have some traces being shipped to the UI. There we go. So we have these two traces that we can see are being run. Let's go. Nice. And then we're working with the Pocket CI repository, trying to run the commands that are specified in the pipeline. And this is stuck. Okay, that's too bad. I don't want to hold you. I don't know what's going on with the internet. My stream was lagging while Diego was doing an amazing demo. So hopefully you can still hear me. But
we can hear you.
This was supposed to show you. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. This was supposed to show you that the Dagger call was running. But you know how demos go. I should have recorded it like Diego did. That's
now we know it's real. Now we know it's a real demo.
You do, yeah.
So wait, let me just describe what I'm
Go ahead.
seeing, because I think maybe people are watching and not realizing just how crazy this is. You basically replaced your CI with a Dagger module. It's basically 100% Dagger native CI, or maybe CI less Dagger. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're getting the events instead of the Git events going from your repo to a third-party CI control plane configured by YAML, kicking off some VMs so that you can call a Dagger function, a Dagger pipeline. So Git to CI to Dagger, it's basically Git to Dagger.
Yeah.
Right. Mediated. The Dagger itself doesn't catch the events. It doesn't orchestrate that, but like you wrote a CI that's like 10 times simpler because it doesn't need 90% of the features. It just needs to get events and run Dagger functions, and that's it, right? It's like the Dagger maximalist solution when you only want Dagger. It's like Dagger native CI. That's what we just looked at. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very extreme.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. There was an even more extreme version, but I decided to go with something that gives users a little bit more customization. And this is where we basically landed, inspired by the GHA module, which I actually just call it the same way. It's basically like Pocket CI right now. It's aiming to be a vendor-specific CI, meaning that it lets you plug into the events that particular vendor gives you, and gives you like a DSL for that. It doesn't give you a layer of abstraction on top of it, but you can create it if you want, and you can just plug it in and run your Dagger calls. If
you got a question,
it's a Pocket CI. Yeah.
You got a question.
Yeah.
I put it on the screen. Yeah. My understanding is this is not a service. It's an open source project.
Yes.
Developed for fun by Matthias, and I think Marcos participated also, right?
Yes.
It's like it's just an itch that you guys wanted to scratch, but I know others in the community want to scratch it also, because if you once you change your CI to be primarily about running Dagger functions, at some point you look at the pile of YAML and additional infrastructure that's sitting between your Git events and your Dagger call, and you're thinking, maybe I don't need all of these moving parts. I can maybe shrink it. I mean, it's kind of it's a natural process as you become more radicalized by Dagger. But yeah, no, it's not a service, it's not a product. It's an open source project. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually something that if you want, you can all use. You can expect this to be very, very rough. So I wouldn't deploy right now mission critical pipelines using something like this. But you can find it. Let me go right here, and you can go to, if somebody can send the link, because I'm not joined to the chat. I think Marcos
Send it. Yeah.
is there. You can go to this repo. We have a pull request that we're currently playing with this idea. You can check it out. You can comment, contribute, whatever you want. But like Solomon says, this is something that we're basically playing with and trying to see if it's a good fit. If the no YAML story is what we want, and if a fully Daggerized project feels better than a mix of things, basically.
Yeah. Also, probably I should reassure everybody that we're not actually going to stop. This is not like an official plan to stop making Dagger work with existing CI. I mean, that's kind of one of the killer features, that you could drop it can run anywhere. So this is, first of all, it's an unofficial project, but by a Dagger employee. But it's also pretty exciting to me because it kind of shows what's possible. Like it's nice to have the ultimate Dagger native stack, even if you can't actually have that stack at work because you have constraints. Like, well, this is the CI we're using, etc. It's just kind of good to know that it's possible, that it exists, and it's like our ideally this becomes like the exhibit model, right? Like the showroom. Oh, look at this, a fully Dagger native CI. I love it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make this so big, but like with the way out here. But it's really cool.
Give me
Actually,
the demo.
it's cool to see the transition of. I feel like we started these community calls of showing very small snippets of ways people are adding Dagger to their pipelines, and then now we've gotten to like Diego's examples and Matthias's Pocket CI examples. So it's really cool to see all of that come to life. Matthias, do you want to oh, actually, quick question on yours. I just realized your screen was gone. But when you type in GHA on Daggerverse, there's a few that come up. Did you want to clarify which one, or does it not matter which one you grab?
So the example that
several come up.
I joined the chat.
Copycats. Copycats.
Yeah. So
there's only one original.
Yeah. Maybe you want to send yours, Solomon. So that
well, yeah, I mean,
the reference.
Yeah, like the one you're talking about is mine, I think, right? So it's shikes/GHA, but we're in the process of adopting that module for our own CI, not Pocket CI, but the GitHub Actions configuration generator, because we use GitHub Actions plus Dagger for our CI. So we ourselves are not the ultimate Dagger native CI yet. Maybe we'll use Pocket CI one day, but yeah, in the process of doing that, I think we're actually forking my version and moving it into the Dagger repo itself, just to keep sort of a nice tight core, and so that it might. I think it's actually being refactored a little bit because there's some missing features. So yeah, for now the reference is shikes/GHA, and in the future there might be another reference under the Dagger, github.com/Dagger somewhere.
Yeah. The one used in the Pocket CI demo is in. I sent the link to Miranda. I cannot join the chat because I have to connect it to YouTube.
I got it.
I haven't yet. But yeah, that one is like inspired from the one that you just mentioned. And it basically has like the generation is different to fit how Pocket CI interprets the actual. Initially I went the direction of interpreting an entire GitHub workflow, but that ended up being more complicated than I thought, and I had not that much time for the demo, so yeah,
Well,
I went with the simpler. Yeah,
it was very, very cool to see, and excited to continue to see the evolution of that on these calls. So. Let me pull up really quickly.
So what happens if we go a little longer and I show my thing? I don't know. Should I'm kind of wondering. I know. I mean, I know Matthias and Kyle have a meeting that I'm supposed to go to also.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nipuna is watching. Maybe no one cares about I just feel bad that I got Nipuna excited.
Yeah.
And I won't show it. Um,
In case it's recorded, but I know Nymphoon's usually hanging out always. So we might, and we're saying go for it. So I think we'll go for it.
Well, I know Peter had to go because he had we're already over time. So like anyone who has to go, feel free to go. I guess I'll show it. Oh, that's my screen. Okay.
Right.
Okay, cool. So the sneak preview is it's a PR.
Here, by the way.
Hmm?
Napuna says he's still here, by the way.
Okay. Get ready, Napuna. This is for you. This one's for you. Okay, so this is something that came out of a hackathon. So the Dagger team 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, went on a team retreat in San Diego, and we talked about the future and talked about how much we love Pocket CI and all that good stuff. So we made a plan, lots of good things coming. But also we had a whole day of hacking because we were very busy all year just fixing bugs and adding features that people ask for. And so there's basically one day in the year where you can just build whatever we want. And so one thing we built is a prototype for what I'm going to show. And then 2 engineers on the team, Helder and Justin, kind of, decided this needed to actually exist, and so they're continuing it, and so it's actually going to get merged, I think soon-ish. So it's not finished, but it's definitely going to happen. And so the PR is out there. So I'm going to just demo what it is. So and it has to do with making the command line experience nicer, because right now, the Dagger API is just one API that you can call from any SDK in curl if you want, or from the CLI, right, from a bash script via Dagger call, etc. But there's gaps in the CLI. Like there's not feature parity, so you can't express everything you can do in code in a shell script. And so I always thought that was sort of a shame. So this is an attempt at fixing that. So the first step is I'm actually I have a stable Dagger version installed here, and I don't want to mess up my machine. So I'm actually going to use, get a little meta, but if you ever want to try a dev version of Dagger, you can point, you don't even have to check out the code. You can point at that Dagger module at Dagger. It's implied that's at main. And then you can build a dev terminal that will build the CLI and the Dagger engine, and it will run them together in a container. That's like a little environment where you can play around. So that's a container. And then I'm just going to say, give me a terminal in that container. And then it's going to, Dagger call. It's going to build, hopefully this is cached because I did this before. It's a little long to build our engine, but if it's cached, of course we use Dagger to build Dagger. No surprise there. Okay, so that's just the prep. That's not the feature. That's just, oh wait, sorry, this is wrong. It's not in main. So you can do it in main, but then you can point at any pull request or any branch. So I'm actually going to say pull request, what's the pull request? I think it's 8611. So 8611 pull/8611/head. So this is GitHub gives me a branch, like this ref, a git ref for each pull request. So literally same command, I'm just getting a dev terminal for that build. That's the build I want to show you. So if you want to go check it out on GitHub, pull request 8611. That's what it is. That's where it is. Okay, building. I also built this before, so hopefully it's also mostly cached. Our own build doesn't leverage Dagger caching as much as it should, but we're going to fix that. Anyway, so here I am. I have a shell, and now I have a dev version of Dagger. Okay, so that was the prep. That was not the demo, but it is pretty cool. You should try it. Now, I'm going to pick a module that I want to interact with, and actually, I'll just kind of recursively do the same thing. So from my little container running in Dagger, I'm going to call the Dagger CLI to also look again at the Dagger repo. Maybe a bad idea. We'll see. And so, okay, now what can I do? I can explore what's available, right? So I can do functions. Oh, give me a list of functions. So it's loading. Oh, you have these functions. Cool. And then you can call, dev. So call dev. Give me a dev terminal. And then I could recursively open the terminal, but let's not go there because then I'll get lost in the maze of terminals. Let me just make sure that's properly cached. Okay, so the point is You can interact with any module. I could point at, oh, actually I could point at Peter's module from before that he demoed. So, you know, Peter / I think it was Dagger modules / fly.io, right? And I can say, oh, show me what's there. And I can call, I think it was deploy. Okay, cool. Back to my dev thing. This one builds a terminal. Then I can chain, right? In the CLI, I can say dev, and then I can add with mounted. Let me just modify the dev terminal on the fly, which is pretty cool. Okay, let me put in /src. I'm going to put you know, the contents of all the contents of Kyle's modules. Why not? You know, in /Kyle. Just keep them around. There's so many. They're so cool. /Kyle. That's where I put Kyle's modules. And then, you know, with end variable name, you can set, you know, blue value. Okay. There's a point to all this. I'm showing a typical CLI experience of chaining, right? And then give me a terminal. I guess I'll try. Okay, we'll see what happens when you test terminals. You guys, you still with me? I don't know. I'm not hearing any feedback. Okay, still people watching. I lost Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle went into a meeting, but that.
Okay. I'll tell him later that his modules are in /Kyle now. Okay, so we have another. Now I'm in this. You know, I composed a module. Cool. It's got, you know, I just assembled on the fly this module. But the idea is this is more verbose than it should be. And also every time I call this, it's slow. So now let's imagine that instead of having to do all this kind of one call at a time, I just point at a module and I type Dagger shell. That's going to load the module. And then it's going to pop me into a bash compatible shell that is not actually bash, it's Dagger. And I'm going to interact with that module through that shell, like a REPL. So I have some built-ins like SQLite style. I can list functions. Notice how fast it is because everything's preloaded. It's the same module. It doesn't have to reload every time, right? And so then I can call dev. Dev is just dev. I don't have to type Dagger call dev. I'm already in Dagger, so I just click dev. I can just call dev, right? Boom. I'm kind of getting lost in the recursions there, but this is all working pretty nicely so far. So I'm just calling dev. Same thing. Should be more cached, but you know, it is what it is. It's a big function. Okay, I get a terminal. So the cool part is normally here I would say Dagger call dev with blah 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 blah. So here, you know, the cool thing is the bash syntax already has a concept of pipeline. So what if I could just use that? What if I could say, okay, call dev that produces a container, and then say, well, I'll pipe that, and then call another function on that with mounted directory. Hey, wait a minute. I don't need to explicitly set all these annoying flags, even for an argument that's always mandatory. Like in Go, did you notice that if you're developing in Go, you're calling a function, a Dagger function, and the mandatory arguments, they're positional. You just put the value, and then optional, it's separate. It's in the struct. But in the CLI, you always have to pass each flag explicitly, and you have to remember the name. But that's because we couldn't use positional arguments because that's a subcommand. It's the next function in the chain. But here, we don't need that. So I can just say, put in Kyle's stuff. So I love how readable this is. Now I'll just keep going with envar foobar. And then give me a terminal. Okay. I just failed miserably. Wait, why? This should work. Okay, imagine this worked. There's a bug. Not this. Okay, for some reason, now it works. Okay, I'm in a terminal. I've got /Kyle. Cool, I can exit. And, oh, we have history. Very nice. That's basically it. Okay, give me the root fs. Give me /Kyle. Show me what's in there. Oh wait. Oh, with mounted directory. That makes sense. Let me just with directory. There's /Kyle. Show me everything. Just list. Yada yada yada. So that's the idea. I'm not going to show you, but the killer feature that almost works, but that doesn't quite work, is you can run sub pipelines. So you can say, you know what, it's this convenience is nice. This directory here, but actually what I want here is n/Kyle. I want to run the result of this, again, natural bash syntax for the result of let's use a built-in here. So let's just give me a git repo at the same address, but I want to say without directory vault, because I just don't like that vault module. So just mount the same thing. So this is going to fail, but next week it'll probably work. So now we have feature parity. You can stitch together pipelines, sub pipelines, and this will just come in built in. So Dagger shell, boom, you'll have that. And then we'll probably make that shell-like syntax a standard for specifying something to run, right? So that will be the thing you copy paste into your CI configuration, etc. And Matthias, anything I forgot to mention in there? I feel like I forgot something. Oh, I'll just make a connection to the discussion we had earlier about secret providers, where we're talking about adding some sort of abstraction so you could plug in your way of getting secrets, password manager, vault. Well, this is fully virtualized, right? So we control what happens when you say execute this command. This doesn't actually execute a binary on your computer. It runs a Dagger function, so we control that. The same is true for environment variables. So we haven't implemented this, but we could use this as an abstraction as the abstraction for secrets. So we could say, what if I said fly token? Okay, I was afraid there would be an actual token, but yeah. What if I said this, and what gets retrieved actually depends on my configuration? Like, what if we said, there's a built-in, or you put in the flag, Dagger -- environment provider or something, and you point at your envar. You say, I want the contents of my envarc files as environment variables, as virtual environment variables. So you just change that flag, you go in the shell, and then $fly token just works. It's not in your actual environment variables on your client machine. It's in an .env file, but Dagger just loaded it for you. It's virtualized. Or you say, you know what, my environment is at this vault path. I use HashiCorp Vault. It's over there. As long as if you give the Dagger CLI some place where there's key values, then we can map them to these environment variables and make them virtual. And then we keep the sandbox protected, because you're in control of what environment is mounted. So if someone you don't know gives you a Dagger script to copy paste and run, and says, trust me, run this, and it tries to access all the things, it won't until you just specifically say, give this thing access to this environment, right? And by default, it would be empty for untrusted scripts, blah, blah, blah. So that might be the solution, possibly. That's just food for thought. That's kind of what we're discussing right now with Kyle and others.
If they want to participate in the discussion, where's the best place to do that? I know we keep saying Discord, but is there a specific issue or? Right.
So there's a pull request, and it's 8611.
Okay, I'll grab it.
Or you can come in Discord and say, hey, I saw the shell demo. But yeah, probably soon there'll be a release with an experimental command with this built in. But yeah, if you want to, the pull request is probably the place to go.
Okay. 8611. I'll add it to the chat right now.
Yeah, and I have the link right here. Boom, boom. And a shout out to Helder and Justin, who are probably not watching and busy for carrying this. I've been dreaming of this feature for over a year, and I honestly was starting to think we would never get around to building it, but it's happening. So I'm very excited. So thank you, Justin and Helder.
Just give engineers, what were we, 12-hour hackathon at the beach. That's the key.
Yep, that's the key. Let's do that again.
Yeah, it's very fun. Well, thank you so much, Solomon, for showing that. Thank you for everyone who kind of who stayed and hung out. If you, like I said, we put the link of the PR for that Solomon just mentioned. So we always want feedback there. So I was trying to figure out this layout. But actually, let me make this so we can actually see this.
We're the last. We're the last three standing. We lost all our co-hosts.
But if you are watching and you haven't tried Dagger yet, or you're just getting started, please join us on Discord. I know we've talked about it so much today, but that is the best place to go. We're on there all the time. Our team is all over the world, so there's someone to talk to at most hours of the day. And then we're also at a lot of events this next quarter. So if you see us there, please stop by and say hi. We always want to talk to people in person when we can, and then contribute too. We've had quite a few people on our intro channel say that they are open source contributors, and we haven't been doing an amazing job at putting like first issue tags on things. But if there ever is a time where you want to get involved and you're not sure where, again, Discord's going to be the best place. Just shout us out in general and we'll find something for you to help on. But also just giving general feedback is just as much of an amazing contribution as submitting a PR. So we are always looking for feedback and ready to hear what you have to tell us.
And that Discord is literally our office. We don't have a separate Slack, like a private Slack or even a separate private Discord server. We're literally on that server, all 25 of us, all the time. We just have a few extra private channels. But yeah, we're literally there all the time, 24/7 through time zones, not individually 24/7 each of us, but we're pretty distributed too. So yeah, it's like paying us a visit at our office in the community room. We come hang out with you, and then you can complain about that bug.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll fix it.
Exactly. And if you just stumbled upon this and you're wondering when our next one is, we do this every 2 weeks. And we do have a calendar, a Google Calendar that you can embed in your own too, so you don't miss them. But we're always streaming these on Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. So we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.